Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to biology. If you are doing this in order, this should be your second video. The first one was on vocabulary, so go back and check that out if you'd missed my class on that. Today, we are going to be talking about the notes. So you should have, if you were in class, received a handout, kind of fill in the blank, guided reading, guided note-taking. I'm not expecting you to copy every single little thing down word for word. That's a waste of time. If you did not receive one of those in class, you should be able to find something like that in Google Classroom. I did not make it yet, so I don't know what it looks like yet, whether it's on Google Drive or a PDF for you to print. Check it out in Google Classroom and see what it is. All right, so let's get started on the notes. In this chapter, we are talking about the basic biological principles, meaning these are the basic facts, basic information that you need in order to understand this entire year. So get started on understanding now. If there's something that you do not get, rewind, check it out again. If you still don't get it, ask me, send me an email, wait and tell me in class. I'm available, all right? But if you do not get this now, the whole rest of the year will not make sense. All right, we're gonna have a couple videos like this, and a couple days in class like this, but today we are going to specifically talk about the characteristics of life. Right? 7 things that all living things have in common, all right? Not, oh, it has most of them. No, all of them. If you are alive, you have all 7 characteristics. If you are missing one, you are not technically a living thing. Right, so let's go into this. Characteristic number 1, composed of 1 or more cells. That's right, guys. All living things that we know of, that we've experienced, as we meaning the scientific community, they've all had at least 1 cell. They could be a single-celled organism like a bacteria, or more cells like you. You are a multicellular organism, but you have cells. What is a cell? If you don't remember from taking vocabulary, a cell is the basic unit of structure and function for all life. Meaning, the basic unit of structure, meaning this is what you are made out of, and function, they have jobs to do that keep you alive. Cells, in and of themselves, are living things. Here are some pictures of different cells. Each one is an individual life, all working together to keep you alive. How weird is that? You are a living thing made up of a bunch of different living things. That just blows my mind. Some things are unicellular. If you don't remember from vocabulary, uni means 1, cellular, cell. So living things made of 1 cell. And my personal favorite example is a bacteria. This is a computer-generated image, but it's a pretty good one. I like it. This is 1 cell, and it is also 1 living organism. It is its own life. So there's a bunch of different individuals here. Multicellular, multiple, more than 1. Cellular, meaning 1 organism, 1 living thing, and it is made up of a bunch of cells. That's you. You are multicellular, made up of more than 1 cell. You have skin cells, you have brain cells, you have liver cells, kidney cells, the list goes on. Different cells are going to have different jobs to do. Right? A muscle cell's job is to contract, to shorten, to get smaller. Right? When it does that, it pulls on your bones and makes your body move. The liver cell's job is to absorb or excrete chemicals. Those are different jobs. Skin cell's job is to protect you. So skin cells make up your skin. They protect you from the outside environment. Characteristic number 2, all living things have to obtain and use matter and energy. Obtain and use matter and energy. What does that mean? Well, just like Obama here is demonstrating in this picture, obtain matter means to eat food. This man is obtaining matter from the pancakes he's eating. And inside those pancakes are carbohydrates. which is a special molecule that has energy. So he is eating matter to get energy. All living things have to do that. Not necessarily eat, but to get material into their body so they can have energy and nutrients and other things. Organisms use food to build and energize their bodies. Like I just said, food has energy in it, but you also use that food, that matter, to build your body. If you cut yourself, you have lost skin, you have lost blood. You are going to eat food and use the molecules in that food to rebuild new skin cells, to rebuild new blood cells. You're going to drink water. That is also matter. And you're going to add that to your blood because blood is liquid. Right? So you have to put stuff into your body to build your body, which is why you have a high protein diet if you're trying to get bigger muscles. All right, let's talk about different kinds. We're still in characteristic number 2. We didn't change gears. All right, let's talk about different kinds of organisms and how they obtain that energy. The first one here is autotroph. Let's go check out my handy list here because I got a prefix and a root word. Autotroph. So let's see if we can find auto really quick. All right, here, auto means self. You can't see my mouse moving. Let me highlight for you. Here we go. Auto means self, like automobile. It's self-mobile. And then troph, if I can find it was here. Oh, right here. Troph means nourishment and one who feels, but that's a different definition. Troph, nourishment, means food, self-nourishment. It makes its own food. So autotrophs obtain energy from the sun. As shown in this picture, all this sunlight energy is going specifically into the leaves of this plant. That's what the leaves do. They gather solar energy. And then they use that energy to power its body, power its growth, to do things. We call this photosynthesis. Take a look what's happening in this picture. If you remember my preview from the last video in the vocabulary, I talked about molecules. Well, carbon dioxide molecules go into the plant. Water molecules right here go into the plant. And the plant is going to rearrange the atoms of these molecules to make one big molecule called a carbohydrate. And that carbohydrate, right here, is going to take all of this solar energy, store it. And when the plant needs that energy, it's going to open it up and use it. Right? So it is making its own food, making its own nourishment. I said this is called photosynthesis. An example of things that can do that are plants. There you go. There are other things that can too. Certain amoebas certainly have the ability. Moss, which by the way, this is not grass, this is moss. It's a whole bunch of individual organisms. Heterotrophs now. Autotroph was self-nourished, meaning it made its own food. Heterotroph, if we go back to my list to see if we can find hetero. Hetero means different. So different nourishment. It can't make its own. It needs to go find different organisms, eat them, and take their nourishment. And ladies and gentlemen, that sounds like stealing. That sounds like murder. That's actually just what you do. You eat things. So heterotrophs obtain energy from eating plants and animals, right? Like this cow here. This cow cannot go through photosynthesis. It cannot just stand in the sun, gather the energy, and store it in a carbohydrate for later like the plants can. No, this cow has to eat that plant. Right here, all this grass, these are plants going photosynthesis. All these plants are making their own food. The cow is going to eat that grass. And then that grass enters the body, and the cow's digestive system is going to release all that energy. Or send it to all the muscles, and the muscles will release the energy. We'll talk about that later on. Right? But you eat the plant, and then you get the plant's energy. Now, I hear you asking, what if I eat the cow? Then you'll get that energy. All right, that cow, here we go. That cow has that energy. If you eat the cow, you get the energy. Problem is something called the 10% rule. That's a future chapter. Basically, you're not getting the same amount of energy. Talk about it later. So examples of heterotrophs are animals, like humans. Yes, guys, you are considered animals in biology. Your only 4 options are animal, vegetable, mineral, or single-celled organism. Out of all the options, we are animals. Horses are heterotrophs, cats are heterotrophs, dogs are heterotrophs. Basically, anything that eats things is a heterotroph. Characteristic number 3, reproduce on their own. And no, I do not mean you as an individual is going to randomly give birth to a child. Right? That is not the same thing. Right? It's involved, it's an option, but I mean as a species, the human species does not need help from outside the species, right? All we need is another human being. A human and a human will make a kid. This is another reason why viruses do not count as living things. I mentioned earlier, viruses do not count because they do not have cells. They are not cells, they're smaller than cells, right? They also cannot reproduce on their own. What they're going to do is invade your body and trick your body into making more viruses. They cannot make their own babies, all right? So again, viruses don't count as living things. Now we got 2 different ways of reproducing. Here's the one that you are probably more aware of, sexual reproduction, where 2 parents produce new organisms, right? Where you are going to supply some of the chromosomes, some of the DNA, but someone else is going to supply the rest of the DNA, and those 2 supplies are going to come together and make one organism, one brand new person. Human beings have what we call chromosomes, 46 of them. Right? All living things have chromosomes, but we have 46. If you don't know the word chromosome, really quick, it's a chunk of DNA, all right? Your DNA is very big, so we cut it into 46 pieces. Humans have 46 of those pieces. Mom is going to copy them and give 23 of those copies to the kid. Dad is going to give 23 of his copies to the kid, and the kid now has 46, just like every other person. So now it's going to be a human being. All right, so animate that. Sperm from dad, egg from mom. They each have 23. Put them together. 23 plus 23 equals 46. And we now are going to grow a person. Aw, how cute. Moving on. Asexual reproduction is something that we are going to be talking a lot about. We're just not going to use the word asexual reproduction when we get to that chapter. We are going to call it mitosis, where one cell splits into 2 cells. Asexual reproduction is when you only have one parent, right? In terms of your cells, each cell is going to duplicate the DNA. So now one cell has 2 copies of DNA, 46 chromosomes and another 46 chromosomes. That's enough for 2 cells. So it's going to split into 2 and have, even things out. Some organisms have the ability to do both. Some multicellular organisms, like you or me or whatever, have the ability to just have a kid by themselves. Not humans, not you or me. Humans can't actually do this, but some animals can. I'm going to skip the detailed thing on this just for time, but the bonnet-head shark and the Komodo dragon were both kept separate in a zoo. The females were kept separate from the males, and then one day, female just gave birth. Female had kids. Blew the zookeeper's minds, but turns out they are asexual. So they're sexual and asexual. Most plants, if not all plants, are also asexual. They have the ability to reproduce on their own. This is a picture of garlic, by the way. And mushrooms, fungus, have the ability to do both. So just interesting tidbits there. All right, we are on what? Characteristic number 4 out of 7. The fourth characteristic is the ability to maintain homeostasis. Guys, we're going to have an entire chapter on this. So excuse me if I don't talk too much about details right now. Homeostasis is the process in which an organism regulates its internal environment. Basically, something happens that changes your body, and your body tries to change back. The example I gave before in a different video, if your body gets too hot, your body will try to cool itself down by sweating. If the room is too bright, too much light is entering your eye, your pupils will get smaller. If there's not enough light, your pupils will get bigger. This is all homeostasis. The example is the one I just gave with the temperature. And characteristic number 5, the ability to grow, develop, and eventually die. All living things die. A little bit more detail about that if you were in class about the dying part. There was an exception to the rule. Email me if you're interested. But growth and development, all living things have to start off really small, because if we were born full-sized, we would kill mom, right? So we got to start small and grow bigger. Or there's the option of developing. And yes, these are two different things, ladies and gentlemen. You have probably heard as teenagers that you are developing. You know, you're going through a whole lot of development right now. No, you are going through growth right now. All right. Development is drastically different. We've just been using the word wrong. So let's look at the difference here. Oh, I forgot I had these things. All living things change over time. Growth and development are your options. All right, let's talk about growth. Growth is what humans do. No, we do not develop during puberty. We grow quickly during puberty. We grow a lot. Growth is a gradual change from baby to adult, but it's minor changes, right? Meaning you still look the same. Not everything starts off or ends up looking the way it started. Humans do. Look at this baby. 2 ears, a nose, 2 eyes, a mouth, hair, and then all through life, it ends with 2 ears, 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, and hair, and it's basically the same. That's growth. Development is a drastic change. Another word for this that you probably learned in middle school or elementary school even is metamorphosis. What butterflies do. This is development. Butterfly starts off as an egg. Mommy butterfly laid an egg, and from that egg came a caterpillar. Larva, we would call it. And then that caterpillar wraps itself up in a pupa. No, not a cocoon. Butterflies do not come from cocoons. They come from chrysalis. Is what we call this pupa. Right? Moths come from cocoons. You know, this is a chrysalis. And then inside this chrysalis, there is a drastic development, a drastic change. It's all the molecules of this guy's body break down. It becomes a mushy soup, goopy grossness with an intact nervous system floating around in there. And then all those molecules start reforming around the nervous system, becoming different shape, and a butterfly pops out. That is a drastic change from the caterpillar. That's development. And then, of course, the butterfly gives birth, lays an egg, which starts the whole thing over. This is development. This is growth. Characteristic number 6, detect and respond to stimuli. All living things are somehow aware of their environment. That's what this means. Detect means you noticed it. That's detect. And respond, you did something. Right? We're not all going to detect things the same way. We're not all going to respond the same way, but every living thing does it. For example, animals. They feel pain. What are they going to do? Any number of things, but they are detecting pain. So I said, move away. Like, ow! All right? That is detecting and responding to stimuli. Here's another example. They find food, maybe they stay. Not doing anything can be a response. If it starts raining, they're detecting the raindrops and the cold and the discomfort. So they find cover. That is a response. Right? Animals aren't the only ones. Plants respond to stimuli. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. They are aware of what's going on. They don't have brains, but their bodies still somehow become aware of what's happening. They detect things and they will respond some ways. For instance, they are responding to the sun. Plants grow toward the sun. You can actually see this if you see trees that are oddly shaped because they're growing to wherever the sun, access to the sun is. They go up usually. Or they can respond to gravity. The roots, well, it's actually the water gets pulled down by gravity and the roots grow downward toward the water. Also, because gravity is going to make the plant fall over, the roots also grow outward to support the plant. So this is our responses. Now here, I get this link over here. There's an even cooler response. This is a bunch of plants by a window, and notice that the window is dark, so the plants are just chilling, doing nothing. And when the sun comes up, we're going to see something. And they moved. Plants moved toward the window. Yes, plants can move on their own. How weird is that? And the sun goes down, and they just get chill again. And the sun comes back up in the morning. They move again toward the sun. They are detecting the sunlight and responding to it. Who knew plants could do that? And no, they don't have muscles. They don't have bone structure. It's actually they're moving more water on the outside than the inside, and that puts a lot of pressure and bends the plant. So they're doing it with water pressure. If you thought that was cool and want to watch it again, feel free, check it out, rewind. But I'm moving on. Characteristic number 7, the last one. All living things adapt and evolve at the population level. Guys, that's important. Population. Individuals do not adapt. Talked about that in the vocabulary, right? We acclimate. As an individual, if the water in the pool is cold, hang out for a little bit and suddenly you get used to it and it's comfortable now, right? That's called acclimating. To adapt is something that you do on a population level. The entire group adapts because it happens through reproduction. All right, you have to have kids and the kids come out slightly different or slightly improved. That's adapting. And then evolution is when we have adapted so much that the species is now different. We are now a different species than we used to be. Evolution is the change caused by adapting. So with that in mind, question. If you're paying attention, I already answered it for you. Can an organism evolve? An organism. And the answer, of course, is no. No, one individual cannot evolve. If you suddenly change, congratulations, you have a mutation. Right? And evolution is when the entire species is different because we, as a species, keep adapting. Meaning we pass on the good traits. Those of us who have the better traits pass on those good traits. So populations are going to evolve. Let me show an example of an adaptation, and then we'll talk about evolution. All right, and now this is different, guys. Back here I said adapt. Right? This is adapt, a verb, a thing that the population does. This is adaptation, a noun, right? A thing. An adaptation is a benefit that an individual has. It is a thing that you are born with, an aspect of your body that you have since you were born. This giraffe's adaptation is the long neck, right? This is a trait that it has to help it survive. Other examples, this hawk or falcon, I think it's a falcon, has a very sharp beak. That is an adaptation. It also has telescopic eyes. It can see very far away. That is an adaptation that helps it survive. It can fly. That's an adaptation. Cheetahs are the fastest land animal on the planet, clocking in at about 65 to 67 miles per hour. Right? That is an adaptation, the ability to move that fast. The claws, unlike most cats, do not retract. They're always out so that when they're running, they get a better grip. That is an adaptation. It has a longer tail than usual for balance on the turns. That is an adaptation. The spots for camouflage. You get the idea. These are things that you have. If those adaptations change from generation to generation, that is adapting. All right, so let's talk about what is adapting, what is evolution. So the offspring are going to receive these cool benefits, right? Like this bird is going to reproduce, and these kids are probably going to look like him, right? To pass on his genes. Take out these birds, medium-sized beaks, and kids are probably going to look like him. Except, differences. We don't look exactly identical to our parents all the time, right? If you did, all siblings would be twins, right? So when these two birds have kids, it has three kids. This is not one of their kids, right? It has these three kids right here. Actually, yeah. So it has these birds. Actually, that's a mate too, I think. And it has medium beak has a medium beak, but it also has a kid that has a slightly larger beak. Just like, you might be slightly bigger than your parents. That happens. Well, this bird with the slightly bigger beak, turns out that is a great trait to have where they live, because the only food source they have are nuts. They got to break through those shells, and that bigger, stronger beak will help you get the food faster. So this guy gets to eat all his food really quick. This guy, he still has to work at it and use a lot of energy. So not only does it take this one longer to eat food, to get the food, but also has to eat more food because it used up too much energy getting the food. So while this guy is too busy trying to get food, this guy is done and has plenty of time for the ladies. So he finds himself a lady who's also done eating because she also has a bigger beak. And then the two big beaked animals are busy reproducing while these little beaked animals are still eating food. So the next generation is going to look like them because they're the ones passing on the genes. So that's what it means to adapt, right? To get the better trait. Evolution is when everyone is now different, right? This is the entire species. Right, this is the past. These guys are dead. They died of old age. But look at them. This was what the entire species looked like before, and now this is what the entire species looks like. So the species is now different. That's evolution. When the whole group changes, the whole group adapts. That's evolution. All right, the whole population changes to get the adaptation. Here's a bigger version of this. All right, now it's flipped upside down. Now the past is on the bottom. This is the original bird, and it had some kids, and some of the kids were more successful over here with bigger, larger beaks. So now living over here, this whole group looks like this. But over here, someplace else, they had a different food source. So this guy's kids with the smaller beaks moved over here where they could eat smaller things. And now this is a whole different group of little small beaked birds. What we have is different species because they got passed on different traits. These guys will not reproduce with these guys because they're too different. They probably don't even live in the same place anymore. They moved. So now through evolution, through adaptation, we created different species. All right. So that is it for the notes, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you in class, and check back on Google Classroom and make sure you don't have an additional assignment. Good luck.